This is Texans TV. Texans Extra Points is sponsored by BHP and by Reliant, the official energy provider of the Houston Texans, and by your local Ford dealers. Ford is the best in Texas.
We are ready to rock at NRG Stadium. Watt gets him down this time. JJ with the sack. Rock and roll. Touchdown. Deshaun Watson.
Hey, the Texans practiced 2 days ago, so we're going to do some TV. We're back. Football, at long last, is back. Drew Dougherty, I'm your host, and this is Texans Extra Points with my good pal, Deepi Sidhu of HoustonTexans.com. Texans TV, Texans Radio, she does it all. We have much to discuss first and foremost, though. It's great to see you, great to be with you, and great to be talking football, Deepi.
It seems like something we do every single year, but this offseason, it just seems like it lasted 20 years, and we probably all aged 100 years too, but it's great to be back. I love that we're talking football. I love that the Texans are back out on the field wearing pads. I know we got a lot to get to.
Yeah, we've got a big show. We've got the standards. We've got players to watch. We've got keys to the season, some next-gen trivia. We're going to go inside the bubble as well with a special guest, but we start things like we always do with quick hits. That's kind of the news of the week and what went down. And the big news is the Texans got back to work, like we mentioned. On Friday, inside the Houston Methodist Training Center, they went through their first padded practice. Now, they've been going through training camp, but it doesn't really start until the pads go on. And when the pads went on, that was a good thing, according to J.J. Watt.
It felt like the first time you got to put the pads on as a rookie in the NFL. You know, it's that you put the pads on, things are different. It's football. It's real football. All that stuff kind of melted away for a couple hours out there, and it's real football. You get to hit, you get to, pop the pads, you get to just be physical, and it was fun. I mean, I got that old school feeling, and it felt really good.
J.J. Watt, obviously the straw that stirs the drink on the defense, and over on the offensive side of the ball, there are weapons aplenty. But at the top of that heap is Will Fuller the fifth. And Will Fuller is healthy, and he's excited about what's to come in 2020.
Yep. So just for my health, I'm feeling good. You know, the surgery I had at the beginning of the offseason is not bothering me anymore at all. And then if I can play 16 games, which I believe I will this year, the sky's the limit. And, you know, I say the same thing all the time. When I'm out there, I'm just trying to do my best to help the team win. And then wherever that lands me stat-wise or whatever at the end of the season, we'll see when we get there.
General manager and head coach Bill O'Brien explained earlier in the week that many players are going to be ramping up and practicing at different times than some of their teammates. So Kenny Stills was not necessarily on the field at the start of things, but O'Brien is encouraged by the wide receiver's progress and says he's looking good.
I don't think it'll be too much longer before he will be out there practicing. He's working with our strength coaches right now. Again, just having not seen him in a long time before he arrived here, we're trying to get a gauge as to where he is, but he'll be out there pretty soon.
We'll discuss more on the wide receivers in just a few segments, Deepi, but we discussed Kenny Stills. We talked about Will Fuller. We've buried the lead. You got to start things off with, when you talk about the Houston Texans, Deshaun Watson, the quarterback. He's the guy pulling the trigger, and the Texans go as far as he goes. So far, what we've heard and seen is he's smarter than he was last year as far as football goes. He's a smart guy nonetheless, but smarter and more knowledgeable football-wise, and he's operating this offense at a fast clip. Deshaun Watson, by all accounts, it sounds like things are getting better with him.
Yeah, I was very excited by Bill O'Brien's very first press conference that he held Friday morning, and he said that here comes Deshaun Watson into camp. He's very focused, he's locked in, and he's doing all the right things to take the next step in his game. And I don't know why, but that just really encouraged me. Not that I expected anything else from Deshaun Watson, but it is year 4. I think after the first year, he was working his way back from injury. After the second year, we were talking about his grasp of the offense and how many defenses he'd seen and how many formations he'd seen. So now to see that he can come in and he's just taken command of this offense, the communication, the signaling, his ability to get everyone lined up, that's going smoothly. I mean, this is what you strive for. Like, he's really hitting his stride right now. And to me, that's the most exciting thing about seeing Deshaun Watson out there right now. And I'm glad that he's out there in camp and that he's got all these different receivers to practice with, because who knows what's going to happen over the course of the next few months, who's going to be out there on offense. and who's not. But I love that Deshaun's out there, and it doesn't matter what his personnel is, he's able to manage it.
Yeah, you bring up the weapons that are around him. It's always been about sword and shield, with Deshaun Watson. Sword as far as getting him weapons, guys to throw the ball to, guys at running back, tight end, and all that. And then shield, giving him a good offensive line, giving him good protection. We'll discuss a little bit more of that as this show progresses. But sticking with the sword aspect, at running back, wow, you've got some guys there in the Johnson & Johnson duo of David Johnson and Duke Johnson. David Johnson, as we're going to hear from John Harris in just a little bit, really looked good on Friday at the start of practice, but what he does and what he can do, tantalizing for this offense.
I think everybody looks back to David Johnson's second season in the league, what he was able to do, all the records that he set, as far as rushing, as far as receptions, touchdowns with the Cardinals. And then he had the injury bug. So, of course, there was a drop-off. And then he changed offensive coordinators. But everyone sort of wonders what could happen with David Johnson with that talent. You see him out on the field. He's big. Boy, if I wasn't excited before about David Johnson, I sure am now. And I think that's exactly what a guy like Deshaun Watson would love to have in his back pocket, to have that back that's strong and able to make some plays from to really open up the passing game, too.
Our buddy Mark Vandermeer, he kind of jokingly has a, hey, don't forget about me guy every season, as far as a guy who's been on the team that probably didn't get in the pub that he should. And you could make a case for Duke Johnson being one of those, hey, don't forget about me guys, because every time we saw him last year, it looked like he was doing something good, whether he was catching the ball, running the ball, blocking. I mean, the Deshaun Watson two-point conversion here in NRG Stadium against the Bills, he had a key block there by Duke Johnson. But Duke Johnson, we've heard from Bill O'Brien, he's been described as a three-down back. Having that sort of duality, that depth at that position, so huge.
Yeah, and Duke Johnson, he made some humongous plays in 2019 on third down.
Yeah.
Really kept drives alive having him out there. And to line him up with David Johnson, I'm really excited what Duke Johnson can do. And I think the best thing about Duke Johnson that we don't talk enough about is his durability. He has never missed a game in the NFL. And as I say that, I'm knocking on wood, because I think that's really hard to say about any player in the league, especially one that's been around as long as Duke.
Amen to that. All right, we got to move back on to the telestrator. That's a key component of the show. And who is David Johnson? You've seen a little bit of him in practice, but let's go back to his time in Arizona, and let's hear from John Harris.
Welcome to Texas Telestrator, presented by BMW. I am your host, John Harris, football analyst and sideline reporter, and wanted to take a look at one of the acquisitions in the offseason, David Johnson from Arizona, now with the Texans, 6'2", 230-pound back who can do a lot of different things. And we've talked a lot about his receiving acumen. But I start thinking about, what does he provide in the run game? Well, this kind of does a little bit of both, this play against the Carolina Panthers here. When you watch it up front, let's go to the Surface powered by Microsoft to take a look at David Johnson. You'll see him right here, right next to Kyler Murray. Now, this play doesn't work at all. This is not really about the X's and O's of this play, because the Cardinals try and get something, and you can tell, look at this, it's just, there's nothing. I mean, Larry Fitzgerald's out of bounds, this guy's covered, there's nobody there. There are Panthers all over the place. But Kyler Murray buys some time, and here's David back over here. And eventually, Kyler just throws it to him. And it's like, all right, you got your shot. So this is what I thought about a 6'2", 230-pound back who's going to catch the ball at about the 10-yard line. And the Panthers do a pretty nice job. Dante Jackson has contained. Here comes Shaq Thompson. Eric Reed's going to get over there. There's not a whole heck of a lot going for David Johnson at this point. But then you're going to see, make that guy miss. Again, he's 6'2", 230 pounds, and he's making that corner, shakes him. Now he gets his shoulder square, darts back inside, and I want you to see this one cut off the left outside foot. See that right there? That foot right there. See that right there? He plants and just cuts right back inside. And what that does, overrun the play, and now he's thinking, well, maybe I can get a block there and get this thing in the end zone. And he's able to power through the tackle and get into the end zone. You can go to the end zone view so you can see a little bit here better of what he does once he catches the ball. Now here's Jackson. Face him up, shake him. That cut inside is lethal. Boom. And then get in the end zone. He's got receiving skills. He's a big back, but you also see he's light on his feet, and he can get the ball in the end zone and make some moves when he needs to. That's David Johnson, newest Texans running back.
Texans Extra Points rolls on. It's time to bring in John Harris, our good pal, the radio analyst, Texans analyst. You've been out at practice. Deepi Sidhu and I have been watching as well. And let's just start with quick first impressions of some faces that we need to know about. David Johnson, running back. I know you very, very high on what you saw from him start of the week.
Yeah, I love seeing a guy 6'2", 231 who can catch the ball the way that he does. The way that he ran the ball, though, is what was impressive to me at first glance. His ability to kind of glide through. You think of a 6'2", 230-pound back, kind of plunders and thunders along. He's not. He is very light on his feet. He gets up north and south and gets to where he wants to go in a hurry. I really like what we see thus far with David Johnson. Hope it continues and hope that he can stay away from that nasty injury bug that felled him in Arizona.
All right, Johnny, a guy that we've seen a lot of in recent years, but he looks different this training camp. Will Fuller, a lot of eyes are on him on number 15. How does he look to you?
He looks a little thicker. Now, let's be brutally honest about this as it pertains to Will. He's never going to look like the Incredible Hulk, but just seeing a little bit of added bulk on him is definitely helpful. You can also see the 15 on the back of his jersey because he's cut his dreads. He said he wanted kind of a new start, new beginning, if you will. And you see that with him in practice. And they're ramping him up so that he's going to be ready to go for September 10th against the Kansas City Chiefs. But he's got such a great synergy with Deshaun Watson. And I really can't wait to see what he's able to do in combination with Brandon Cooks, Randall Cobb, Kenny Stills, all together with number 4.
And I can't wait to see what this tight end group does in union with all those folks that you just mentioned, because there's a lot of diversity there at that position. Let's talk about a guy who didn't play too much last year, though, in Jordan Thomas. You just brought up thicker with Will Fuller, a little bit of the opposite with JT, right?
Yeah, when JT got here in 2018, he was a thick guy. He was about 275. And I always kind of felt like, man, if he could maintain his strength, but drop that a little bit, boy, it's going to make him more explosive in every aspect of his game. And I think that's what he's done. I think this offseason was spent getting his body right to come back for a 16-game grind. And boy, he looks really good catching the ball down the seam and doing the athletic things we know he can do. But now he's just gotten things tightened up. He's slimmed down. I think Jordan Thomas and that tight end crew are going to be a group to watch, no doubt, for 2020.
John, always good to talk to you. We really appreciate the time. It's hot out there, so stay frosty, and we'll get up with you again next week. It's time to get into some Texans trivia now, and think about this. When was the last year that all 5 starters from the previous year's team returned on the offensive line for the Houston Texans? We'll have that answer later in the show. This is Texans Extra Points. We love numbers, and we love next-gen stats numbers even more. So look at this, Deshaun Watson and Will Fuller. When Will Fuller is on the field, Deshaun Watson attempts 17% deep balls as opposed to 11% deep balls, and he completes almost 10% more of those deep balls when Fuller is there. So when number 15 is on the field, good things happen in the passing game for number 4. It's almost a touchdowns difference if you look at when Fuller plays versus when he doesn't. So big impact there. All right, welcome back to the Ford Studios. Drew Dougherty, your host, along with Deepi Sidhu here on Texans Extra Points. And let's talk about these wide receivers. We want to talk about the offensive line in just a little bit. But speaking of the wideouts, speed, speed, speed. Okay? But it's not just a bunch of track guys. Way back when the Dallas Cowboys drafted Carl Lewis in the 12th round of the NFL draft. Carl Lewis never played it down, never went through any practice. The Texans have fast guys, but they've got guys who can play receiver as well. I've never seen this amount of skill and speed combined together.
Yeah, and I can't wait to see it on the field with Deshaun Watson, because with Brandon Cooks and Will Fuller, they're both that's what they pride themselves on, right? Opening up the field, getting down the field with tremendous speed. And with a guy like Will Fuller, when he's in the game, we saw how much it changed the entire look of the offense. Now double it if you've got him and Cooks. You know, the different combinations that you can use with those two guys. I know we don't have DeAndre Hopkins anymore here in Houston, but we've got Cooks, we've got Fuller, we've got Cobb, we've got a bunch of different guys with different skill sets. But I think you're right when you hit the nail on the head with the speed, because I am really excited to see the speed and the deep balls that we start seeing this year, because I wonder if that number goes up as a whole for the Texans now that we've got Cooks on the squad.
And you also need to factor in Kenny Stills. He now has a full year in the system once training camp basically ends, and he's fast too. Way back when he was a rookie, he led the NFL in yards per catch with 20 per catch. He led the Texans in yards per catch last year. Will Fuller did not. It was Kenny Stills last year. So what does Kenny Stills look like with more time to marinate in this offense? Think about that.
I mean, we saw him week 1 at New Orleans. He came out there and scored a big touchdown in the fourth quarter. Heartbreaker of a game that the Texans couldn't come out and win. But, you know, we heard Deshaun Watson come out and say he wants to start winning those games this year. And I think with the full year of Kenny Stills and Will Fuller back and now Brandon Cooks, these are games that they can win.
Yeah.
Because with Kenny Stills out there, you know, he was more available last year than Will Fuller. Now you hope that Will Fuller can stay healthy this year. I think that's going to be the biggest key. That's what everyone's been talking about. But that's the case with all your wide receivers. But the good thing is you've got a lot of different guys that can add speed to your offense.
Let's rewind a year, and 3 of the 5 offensive linemen for the Houston Texans had not started an NFL game for the Texans. You've got left tackle Laremy Tunsil with a year under his belt as a Pro Bowler here. You've also got the rookies from last year, Max Sharping, the left guard, and right tackle Titus Howard, along with center Nick Martin, along with Zach Fulton at right guard. That 5-some, or quintet, we'll go with that word. When they were together, they were 5-1. The Texans were 5-1. That's pretty good. And now they're coming back. They're all healthy. They're all looking good, knock on wood. So what can this offense do with an above-average offensive line, it seems?
Yeah, and you know what? It seems unusual to say the Texans' offensive line, the starting 5, is returning. We haven't been able to say that in a long time.
Since 2011, going into the 11th
You're right.
season. Yeah.
I think since I have been with the Texans, I have not been able to say the Texans starting 5 is returning, because that's just not been the case. But you're right. And now they've been able to work with Deshaun too. So last year you had 2 rookies on the starting offensive line.
Yeah.
And Titus Howard, Max Sharping, they were not starting at those positions in week 1. They worked their way into the lineup through injuries and moving around. So now they know that those are their positions. We're not going to see guys moving around the offensive line like we used to sort of compensate for injuries. These are their roles, and I love that Laremy Tunsil's out there. And Titus Howard talked about how he watches film of other guys in the league and tries to get better. And one of those guys is the guy right next to him, Laremy Tunsil, down the line.
That's quite a resource for a young guy like
Huge.
that. It's really good to see. Okay, with all that in mind, we've talked about receivers, we talked about offensive line. Earlier, running backs and Deshaun Watson. It's time for our Gatorade players to watch. We'll let you go first. Who's the player to watch for you in 2020?
There's a lot of players that I want to watch, but my eye is on Randall Cobb. I love that the Texans signed a veteran slot receiver, because it seems like every single year they're looking to have that dependable, durable veteran slot receiver. I feel like that's something Bill O'Brien's been sort of trying to work on ever since he got here from New England and had Wes Welker with the Patriots. And I love that Randall Cobb, you know, what he's been able to. Even last year with the Cowboys, he played 15 games, had 800 yards receiving.
Yeah.
Randall Cobb out there, you know, he's a veteran. He's worked with a lot of wide receivers. I think John Harris said it best. He was telling me, he said, you know, he just looks like a veteern.
Yeah.
He knows what he's doing.
It's a decade of experience. Yeah.
And the way he talks about running routes, about when he's supposed to get open, and how a quarterback likes to throw the ball, when he likes to throw, the timing, he sort of understands the nuances of being a wide receiver. And I think at slot position, that's going to be huge for Deshaun this year.
If he plays the way he has and the way we think he can play, it's going to be an amazing combination with Fuller and with my player to watch, Brandon Cooks, because it's the speed, and he's had 1,000-yard seasons. He's done it with different great quarterbacks, Breeze, Brady, Goff, and now Watson. I think it's going to be fun. Can't wait to see that, and can't wait to see what comes next year on Texans Extra Points, because it's the FCCU keys to the offense the Texans need to do on that side of the ball for a successful season. We're coming right back in just a moment.
Texans Extra Points is sponsored by BHP and by Reliant, the official energy provider of the Houston Texans, and by your local Ford dealers. Ford is the best in Texas.
One final segment of Texans Extra Points, and you know, earlier in the show, I asked the Texans Trivia question, what year was the last year that the Texans had all 5 starters on the offensive line from the year before returning? Well, I snuck it in between then and now, and if you were listening, you heard me say 2011, after 2010. They had all those guys. You had Dwayne Brown at left tackle. He went to a Pro Bowl at one point. Wade Smith went to a Pro Bowl at left guard. Center Chris Myers, and then over at right guard it was Mike Biscuit Brizell, and out at right tackle Eric Winston. That's the gold standard of Texans offensive lines. Deepi Sidhu, you're the gold standard of guests tonight on Texans Extra Points, and we got to get into FCCU keys to the offense. What are your two?
Well, I think the first one is kind of a big, obvious one, especially in the year that we're having. It's going to be health.
Yeah.
I think just to keep guys healthy, whether that's from COVID-19 or whether it's from injuries, I think trying to keep everybody is available, especially your key players, for as long as possible. That's always the goal, isn't it? Not for every offensive team, but I think this year especially, it's even more so because you don't really have a lot of time to get ready for the season. Second one, this was an issue that sort of plagued the Texans last year, the slow starts, not being able to score early. I'd like to see them come out this year kind of where they left off. You know, as the season went on, they were able to score a little bit earlier, but that first quarter scoring, they got to get the ball moving a little bit earlier. No more slow starts. I'd like to see them get off to fast starts.
They were abysmal in the first quarter last year. It start of games. They didn't score a touchdown until week 17, the final, and that was A.J. McCarron playing quarterback. I think the only time they actually scored was a field goal in London against the Jaguars. All right, my two keys, that offensive line, keep them together. Good things are going to happen. I mean, they were, like we mentioned in the trivia question, 5-1. The hallmarks and the best seasons for the Texans have been in 2012, 2011, when the offensive line was what you thought it could be, and it was not a hindrance like it has been in years past, 17 and 18 in particular. And then you got to get some contribution from your tight ends. I think if you get that cooking along with the wide receivers, the running backs, this is a powder keg of an offense, and the Texans are going to go very, very far. Early returns, Jordan Thomas, who didn't factor in much of anything last year, is looking very, very good. He's combining with Jordan Akins and combining with Darren Fells, who had, 7 touctouchdowns? Wow.
And Kahale Waring. We
don't even know. Another X factor, as well. Hey, good stuff as always, Deepi. Thanks so much for coming on. We'll do this again very soon. Thank you for watching. It's good to be back on Texans Extra Points. We'll be back again, same time, same place, same channel. Take care. Go Texans. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to know when we post new content.